Hey, Bryant Cook, and I am back with another deck showcase. Today, I am presenting you with my Legacy Doomsday deck. Unlike the other decks that I presented so far, I didn't set out looking to build Doomsday. It just sort of happened between creating multiple other decks this year. Some cards are from the Epic Storm, some cards are from Pauper Cycle Storm, even some cards from, modern Lurrus Lotus Breach. So this deck is accumulation of multiple different things. Yeah, so I'll share some of that as we go through, but keep in mind, this deck was sort of an accident. I had to actually get very few cards in order to build this, and I have played Doomsday actually a number of times this year at local Legacy events here in Syracuse, New York, so kind of awesome. But anyway, let's just hop right on into it. Let's talk about Doomsday. All right, so these are from Weatherlight. These are not the Masters 25 version. I'm aware that there is a Japanese foil. Well, Noah Bradley's kind of a sexual predator. Don't want to use those. So that's the primary reason. And then the secondary reason is this art for Doomsday is iconic. I've tried to contact Adrian Smith about getting these signed. Didn't hear back. If anyone has any leads, I'd love to hear them. But it's hard to go wrong with the original Doomsday. Like, this card is just so freaking cool. And I got a major upgrade with Thassa's Oracle, which is the reason that this deck, in my opinion, is even playable. So, yeah, Doomsday, the heart and soul of the deck. I guess it's like a 5-time demonic tutor if you think about it. Really awesome. Dark Rituals, these are from the Epic Storm, signed by Rebecca Guay. If you're interested in getting your card signed by Rebecca Guay, she does sign. It is $50 for up to 20 cards, so it doesn't matter if it's 1 or 20. Make sure you get the most out of it. So every time I send to Rebecca, I try to, get the full 20, whether it's spare copies of Dark Ritual, Predict, there's a bunch of other sweet things, Twiddle. So make sure you get your card signed. There's also Moments Piece, so another playable by Rebecca Guay. She's done tons and tons of sweet art. And then down here we have Lotus Petal, signed by April Lee. I talked about this in my Epic Storm video, but shoutouts to Randy Belcher for getting these signed for me back at Gen Con 2013, I believe. That was the last time that April Lee signed. It's so tough finding signed in black Lotus Petals because she tends to sign in silver a lot of the time. So really happy that I got these. And once again, Randy, you're invaluable. Thank you. Lion's Eye Diamond. I guess there's other reserve list cards in here, but the big one, Lion's Eye Diamond. This deck only requires one of them, which is actually pretty helpful. You do need 4 copies of Underground Sea, but Lion's Eye Diamond's the other big one. There was a point this year where these hit $700. They've come down a little bit since then, but Lion's Eye Diamond is just crazy expensive, and only needing one for Doomsday is actually a pretty big deal. So that is a benefit to playing this archetype for sure. And then we have Thassa's Oracle. The reason that this version of Doomsday is playable, in my opinion, signed by Jesper. And I got this done this year through Mark Roanowitz's card signature group. And if you're interested in that, it is in the description down below. So shout outs to Mark. I have another one that is in the sideboard that I need to send out this year to get signed by Jesper. So I will be doing that. And then we have Autumn's Veil. Or I'm sorry, Edge of Autumn. I don't know why I said Autumn's Veil. Edge of Autumn. I actually picked up a Future Sight one this week. I still have to find another one, but I've been keeping my eye out for them. They just disappear very quickly every time they're posted. So, it's tough, but these are a few of the cards I did have to get in order to build this deck. These are one of the few cards that I didn't just happen to own. So I picked up these as placeholders. They are Japanese foil, but they're Time Spiral Reborn, I think it's called, or Time Spiral Rebirth. I don't remember. TSR. But I have a real one coming from Future Sight, and I'll need to get a second one soon. Reshifted? This is going to bother me. Whatever. Let's move on. Street Wraith. These are from Cycle Storm. You can get them signed by Cyril on your own. Just contact them through their website. They'll give you their information. They do take a little bit of time to come back. And once again, these scan just super darkly. It actually happened in the Cycle Storm video too. So maybe next year I'll get a new scanner. Maybe one that's a little bit better. But, yeah, I mean, Street Wraith is just a super powerful card in general. Happy to have these signed by Cyril. Moving on. Brainstorm. I talked about this in my Legacy the Epic Storm video, but I've owned these since they were restricted in vintage. So at the time I was working at Wendy's, flipping hamburgers, and with my paychecks, I would keep half of them every month. My paychecks were usually like $80 to $90 per week. and I would spend half of them on $45 brainstorms, keeping the rest for, food or whatever I needed at the time. But half my paychecks went to getting Japanese foil brainstorms, and I think it was a pretty wise investment. Those burger burns on my arms from all the grease, certainly worth it. That was a joke. Moving on. Ponder. Pretty interesting story that I told about. I'm going to abbreviate it here because I've already said it once in the Epic Storm video. And once again, these cards are mostly crossover from the Epic Storm. But I once owned these back when Lorwyn came out. I picked up this set of Ponders, this exact set of Ponders. And then when the M10 ones came out, the Ponder with the 3 globes, I traded them for those Ponders to my friend Adam, who then traded them to someone that casually played Magic as a vintage player and just like reserve list collector. Well, years later, they posted these Ponders for sale. I didn't know that they were mine, and I contacted them willing to trade my foil Grim Monolith for them, plus a little bit of cash. And they told me how they got them, and we realized while talking that these were my original Ponders that I had from way back when. So in 2017, I made the swap that I got my Ponders back from 7 years earlier. So that was pretty awesome. And then that very weekend just happened to be the only Eternal weekend I ever went to, and I got them signed that very weekend by Mark T. Really happy with how that whole interaction went out. And here we have 4 copies of Consider. Well, I have some bad news for you Doomsday fanatics. I do not own Personal Tutors, and I think that card is secretly kind of stinky. Like, is it correct to play it? Yes. I'm not trying to argue that it's not. That said, Consider is a card that isn't $200 for a terrible Magic the Gathering card. I think that Personal Tutor is likely a card that is going to be power crept out of the deck at some point. I don't know when it will happen, but it probably will be. So I don't really want to invest a bunch of money into getting a card that I don't think is particularly that great. So I am not going to be getting Personal Tutors. Should you be playing them? Yes. I'm not trying to argue that. You should be playing them. But I'm just personally not going to go get them. Pun not intended there. But yeah. Anyway, so I've been playing 4 Personal Tutors at my locals. Or I'm sorry, 4 Consider at my locals. And it's led to a lot of really quick wins. There was an event where I went undefeated, where the number of turn 1s and turn 2s I had with backup was just through the roof, and a big part of that was just having 4 Consider in my deck, which was really, really awesome. I know that people used to call the 4 Personal Tutor builds Turbo Doomsday. I know that Consider doesn't search up Doomsday, but it certainly felt more Turbo-like to me. And I actually really enjoyed playing with 4 copies of Consider just because the amount of games that you could just goldfish your opponents was super high. So shoutouts to Consider. I do have to get them signed. I think Matthew Schneider is doing a group signing this year, so you could check out Matt's info in the description down below as well. But I'll certainly be sending in at least 8 of these to get signed when Matt does do it. All right, Deep Analysis. Not a win condition in this deck. Yesterday, I uploaded my Pauper Twirlstorm deck where Deep Analysis was the win con. Not the case here. Deep Analysis is actually used for a Doomsday pile where you mill it with Consider, draw Lion's Eye Diamond, sacrifice the diamond to flashback Deep Analysis, draw Lotus Petal, and Thassa's Oracle to swiftly win the game. So that's what Deep Analysis is in here for. And your other Doomsday piles often include Idealism Bound, a card from Pauper Twirlstorm as well. That said, here we are not looking to splice onto Arcane. We're just looking to draw 3 for 2 blue mana, which often works quite well with Street Wraith and Lion's Eye Diamond. So that's what Idealism Bound is in here for. The discard 3 cards thing rarely comes up, but every once in a blue moon you do use it as a expensive, careful study. I will get this signed by Mark Teeden whenever Magic Fest do come back. Mark Teeden goes to a lot of them, so I'm sure I'll see Mark at some point in the next year or so. Thoughtseize, another card from the Epic Storm. I got these right before the Gitaxian Pro ban in Legacy. In the BNR update prior, they talked about how they were watching Gitaxian Probe, and I thought to myself, I should get Thoughtseize. So I ended up getting these around $450 each. They're now over $1,000. So it was a pretty wise investment for me at the time. And Alexi is just like super fast with their shipping. I 2-dayed it to them and then gave them money for shipping back. And it's also a tip. I tipped them well. But then they paid for 2-day shipping back to me, which they didn't need to do. So Alexi was just a professional about it all. And I just love those signatures. They're so beautiful. Really, really happy with my Thoughtseizes. And then down here we have Days. I do not own original Dazes. I'm sorry. They're just really, really expensive for a card that might be banned out of Legacy soon. Knock on wood. And I hope it does, but yeah, so I don't own Nice Dazes. I'm sorry. I own these Eternal Master reprints. That's all I've got to say about Days. And then down here we have Forcible. They are not EMA. I am sorry. They are Double Masters. I ended up getting Double Masters because they were more affordable. I am not super stupid rich. Just one of those things. And that was a self-burn. So I ended up getting these at a pretty reasonable price. They were around $350 each. I think I paid $400 for one of them. But they were just a lot more affordable than the EMA ones that were around $1,500 at the time. I don't know what they are anymore. They've probably come down ever since these were released, but they were just more on a price point that I could afford. So I ended up grabbing these instead. And really the only difference between them is the set symbol. So if you care that much, hey, I would prefer to own EMA ones, but I'm not going to go out of my way to swap out a set symbol. These work just fine. So they are Japanese foil. They're not original set. I'll live. Yeah. Okay. Pact to Negation, signed by Jason Chan. I actually did not get these signed. Most of the cards in this deck that are signed, I got signed at some point on my own. But Pact to Negation, I did not. I bought these from my good friend Juan Valdez, and Juan got them signed at, I believe he said, GP Seattle like a decade ago for his Ad Nauseam deck. So I ended up buying the full set of Pact to Negation from Juan this year. He gave me a very, very good price. Insanely good price. Thanks again, Juan. And now I own a full set of them. I got them for Modern Lurrus Lotus Breach. I didn't think I'd actually ever use the full set, and then I ended up using the full set in Modern, and now I'm using the full set here. So I'm glad that I sprung for the full set. It really worked out because I was considering only buying one, and then I just decided I might as well own the full 4. Duress, another card from the Epic Storm. I picked these up from someone who had just happened to have a signed playset. They were just looking to dump them. So I got these for, I believe the entire set was like 180-ish. And it was pretty wise investment at the time. It is the first Japanese foil Duress that was printed. Sometimes I get comments like, why don't you use the Saga one? The Saga one does not come Japanese foil original print, at least. They later on released a promo that has the original art but not the original frame. And that's not going to cut it for me. So these are the OG Duress. And then over here we have an assortment of fetch lands. Andreas Roca, Flooded Strands. I talked a little bit about these in the Modern video if you want more content on those. Shelly Wan signs a few times every like 5 or so years. I managed to sneak into one of her signings. I was pretty happy about that. Scalding Turn signed by Philip Straub. Thanks to Jack Stan before he disappeared for getting these signed. I do appreciate you. I still need to get my Verdant signed. Vance Corvax goes to, what is it called? Nebraska's War every year that they have it in Italy. So I'm waiting for another Nebraska's War to happen so I can get my Verdant signed. There's actually, I have like 3 or 4 different cards I need signed by Vance, so I'm really hoping he resurfaces. I'd love to get some Vance signatures. I've tweeted at them a handful of times. They're active on Twitter. They just never respond to me, so I'm becoming a little hopeless with a mailing signing, and I think I just have to wait for Nebraska's War. Fluted Delta, Bloodstained Mire. These I got around the same time. I think it was like 2017, maybe early 2018, but I got them for much lower than what they're worth now. Part of COVID with the Magic card market is a lot of cards are just like artificially inflated. Right now, Fluted Deltas are like $5,000 each, which is more than I paid for my entire playset. I paid around $450 for all of my Bloodstained Mires. Those are over $2,000 now. So they're just crazy expensive, and I think we're in a COVID bubble, and that bubble on card prices will eventually pop. I don't know if it's ever going to go back down to where they were, but I would expect prices to come down somewhat. Once big events are happening, buying and selling happens more often, those sort of things. Marsh Flat, signed by Izzy. Watery Grave, not signed yet. I'd like to get originals, but they're sort of expensive because I want originals for my Modern deck. Maybe one day we'll get there. And then I mentioned in my Epic Storm video that I was not wise enough when I started getting FBBs way back when that I didn't pick a language, so mine are mismatched. Here's 2 German, and these are 2 French, I believe. So not a full 4 German, I apologize. Also different signatures because some of them came pre-signed. Wasn't too picky about that. Yeah. Playing your favorite combo deck in paper just got so much easier with the Epic Storm Mini Token Pack. You can pick one up at theepicstorm.com/shop for $13. It includes 64 double-sided mini tokens. That's 128 tokens total. And they include 10 black, 10 blue, 10 red, 5 green, 5 white, 3 colorless, 20 storm counters. That means that you can count your way all the way up to 20 for Grape Shot, everyone's favorite Stormwind condition, a Galvanic Relay Exile Indicator, 4 treasure tokens for Strike It Rich, and then 10 monk tokens for our vintage friends. It also has Slime Time Live, Ave Progenitor Ooze tokens with the power and toughness already built in to make playing in paper so much easier. No fumbling around with dice. We've got you covered. Make sure to go grab those if you're playing Modern. And then Squirrels versus Goblins, Chatterstorm versus Empty the Warrens, the Battle of the Ages. You definitely need 20 Squirrel tokens and 20 Goblin tokens. You're going to love this mini token pack, I promise. And once again, you can grab that at theepicstorm.com/shop. Moving on to the sideboard. I picked up all 4 of these Force of Negations this year. I got 3 from my good friend Marshall Arthurs. Marshall, shout outs to you. I do appreciate you. Marshall's always hooking me up with great prices on Japanese foils. You're a good friend. And then I got the 4th from Haruya earlier this year. They had a pretty good price on one, so I wanted to get these for my Modern Lurrus Lotus Breach deck. Like I said, this deck is an accumulation of different decks, essentially. Like, I didn't plan on owning Super Nice Doomsday. It sort of just happened, and then I've played this deck a number of times at locals throughout the year, which is why I decided to upload it. I don't know if I'll do this deck again next year, who knows, but this year was certainly fun to do while I played it quite a few times. Pact of Negations, again, thanks to Juan Valdez. Shoutouts again. The Thassa's Oracle that I still need to get signed that I mentioned up above. These copies of Flusterstorm from Iconic Masters. I told this story in my Epic Storm video, but these Flusterstorms were actually sent to a previous address of mine. I sent them out for a group signing. When they came back, the person just shipped them to my old address. So I actually had to knock on my old address on their door at 7 in the morning and hope that they answered, and they did. And they had my cards, although they opened up the package, which I thought was a little bit weird, and then they had them on their coffee table. And I knocked 5 days later, so I'm very thankful they still had them after that time. But everything worked out in the long run, and Erica Yang's signature is just super awesome. Beautiful art, beautiful signature. You gotta love it. Carl Critchlow signed Chain of Vapor. I've owned these forever, also from the Epic Storm. I actually had one back in the earlier days of playing the Epic Storm. I want to say I actually got rid of it. I remember the exact event I got rid of it. I got rid of it at the Grand Prix that I top 8'd, Grand Prix Columbus 2010, and it had a print line in it. And the person that I sold it to thought it was the most rare thing ever because it had this like print line in it. And I was just like, sure, here you go. And I got a boatload of money for it at the time, which helped pay for my weekend, which was pretty nice. And then later on in time, I got 2 of these back. And I think at the time I paid like 65 and 85 for the 2 Chain of Vapors that I own today. And then at some point over the last few years, they skyrocketed. Last time I checked, they were worth like $350 each. The price on cards nowadays is just insane. I would not buy super nice cards at the rate that they are currently anymore. I'd probably just get cheaper versions. But at this point, I'm in too deep, and I just have to keep going. Massacre, signed by Pete Ventures. I talked a little bit about this in my Epic Storm video as well. I've actually owned 4 of these in my life. One got lost in the mail. Another got lost on the way back from a group signing. And then I own 2 currently that are both been signed in person by Pete. So these cards, they do get lost if you ship them out. Just a warning, it's going to happen to you. That's a joke. But yeah, I haven't had perfect luck with group signings in my life. Cavern of Souls, this is actually out being signed right now by Cliff Childs. I got this from my friend Trevor Brown, who was tearing apart their EDH collection and gave me a very good deal on it. So Trevor, thank you. You're awesome. Sheldock Isle, non-foil. Uh, I think it's the only non-foil in this deck that could be foil. I almost bought one earlier this year for $60, and I was weighing back and forth on if this card is going to stay in the deck and if I should pick it up, and then it sold. So my own fault. There was another one I saw for sale at 85, and I felt like that was a little bit high for a Shelldock Isle. Maybe one day I'll get one. Who knows? I also feel like there might come a time period where this is no longer playable. I have noticed a lot of lists cutting it recently due to all of the legacy control decks playing Wasteland, partially for Shelldock Isle. So I don't even know if this should still be in the list, but it's in this one. And then the promo Emrakul, the Aeon's Torn, for putting into play off of Shelldock Isle. The way that it works is you set up your Doomsday with Shelldock being the top card. You grab the Emrakul, put it underneath, and then you cast an uncounterable Emrakul, take an extra turn, and annihilate your opponent. It's pretty good. So that is the game plan here. And that is the entire video. I hope you enjoyed it. There's no extras today because honestly, this entire deck is mostly extras. I had to buy very few cards, mostly just these Edge of Autumns and maybe a couple other things. But I did just happen to own a lot of this deck. I think I bought the Japanese Shelldock Isle at one point for like $6 or $8 or something like that. So I only had to really buy like 3 cards in order to build this deck. It just happens to be like relatively pimped out and nice looking. And if you enjoyed this, I do have more of these. So here's the other ones that are currently live. There will be 3 more coming after this one, I believe. There will be 10 total. So how many are here? 8. So there will be 2 more after this one. Let me know if you like this deck showcase series and if I should do it again next year or if this one time was enough. I don't mind. And then here's the actual products that I use if you're interested in purchasing them for yourself. These are not paid advertisements. These are just the things that I genuinely love. So if you're interested, go check out that stuff. Thank you for watching. Keep storming. Have a great day and happy holidays. Hey, Bryant Cook here. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe, but also follow the social media channels down below. If you want to support this content directly, I would recommend going to theepicstorm.com/shop. And if you need a little bit of assistance with the Epic Storm to get to that next level, I would recommend going to theepicstorm.com/tutoring. Don't worry, there's more great content coming right up.